Era was born in Jasper, Texas, in that county, anyhow. But she moved to Coleman County when she was just 3 years old.
Mama, the Collier family, was mostly in East Texas, in Jasper. But her mother's sister, who was married to a Delaney, they had moved to Coleman previously. And I don't know why they decided that they needed to move from where they were, but anyway, they moved to Coleman because the Delaneys lived here.
Dad's family came from Milam County. They were farmers over there, tenant farmers, I guess, but they never owned land.
I think my dad was raised mostly in Rockwood, Texas, and he had 2 brothers and a sister. No, 3 brothers and a sister. And his older brother, who I understand he was very close to, his name was Ernest, died in some kind of a really bad epidemic they had there. And after that, they decided to move away, and they moved to Coleman.
I remember they lived in the Plainview community for a while. It was a time in which they lived close to the Hipshers, and then they moved to the place on top of the hill, and they were just renting there also.
My dad was good friends with Nathan Ferguson. They palled around, and Nathan started dating Nana Lee, who is my aunt, my mother's sister. And so Nathan got Daddy and Mama together, and they would double date. Drive their old Model Ts over there to pick them up.
I don't know really when he started dairying, but he was basically milking cows all of his life.
And he was a working, busy man, I'll tell you what.
Our father, Jim Watson, which of course we just call Daddy, was a dairy farmer. And he had, as far as I know, he had been a dairy farmer ever since he got out of the service. Interesting to me is that he was a veteran of World War I. He used to have a farm several miles from here in an area called Junction. And after World War II, many of my mother's brothers came and lived with them and helped with the farm, I guess, until they could find jobs. And I think my dad was a big-hearted person that did a lot to help extended family members.
They sort of thought of their father, Papa, as like you hear people thinking about God, that they were in awe of him, that they respected him, they thought he was a good person, and they were fearful of him. I never saw him be upset, angry, speak a harsh word, but I got the idea that you didn't want to.
Mother was, in my opinion, a very beautiful woman. Even those that remember her may remember her as a little old lady. But about town, she was thought of as being one of the most attractive women in town. And we girls always hoped that, well, I hope that I age as well as my mother.
Mama had a good sense of humor. She just was busy a lot.
I think her life was just pretty much full with taking care of all the family and cooking and all. And I remember she would go into town to a laundry each week and have a big load of laundry to do.
However, that was not the laundromats that we imagine today. That was a place without any air conditioning, and the washing machine would have 4 big tubs in it. And you'd put the dirty clothes in one, and it did have an electric agitator in it, but I remember Mama had a big wooden stick, and she would sit there and just keep the clothes pushed down into the water with this wooden stick while this thing went around, and sweat would just pour off her face. And then we'd take the wet clothes out of the last rinse thing and put them into these big tubs. and bring them home wet. And we had clotheslines strung out across the yard, and we would drive the car out there and open the trunk, and we kids would help her take out the wet clothes and hang them on the line.
And, sometimes the cows would come through there and knock it down and it'd get dirty again. She would be really angry. I did see Mama angry, mostly at the cows. But I don't think I ever saw Papa angry.
And goodness, then she would sprinkle and iron everything. And Mama would be ironing at this ironing board we had that folded down out of the wall into the dining room.
She always kept the radio close to the ironing board. Mama loved Western music. We learned a lot of Western songs, I guess.
Mama loved to dance. And every year when the rodeo would come to Coleman, they would have a rodeo dance after the rodeo performance. And so we did kind of get our love of dancing, I think, from Mama.
Era just had just a love and a presence. She was always there. She was always serene, calm.
Daddy was known by everyone in the county. When he first started in the dairy business, he even bottled his own milk.
He used to bottle and distribute milk over town in Coleman.
So consequently, almost everyone in town knew him and who he was.
Well, the business of the farm, Daddy and some help, farmed the land, and some parts of it would be kept, to feed to the cows.
And he always named his dairy cows, but he also raised a lot of cotton. Back then, there was a lot of cotton in this part of the country, not so much now. And of course the feed for the oats and wheat and stuff that he'd grow, to feed the cows.
One thing that Grace and I did during one period of time was help down at the dairy, and our job would be to put feed out for the next milking time. One would shovel the feed from this room where it was stored over into this trough that ran the length of the dairy, and then the cattle would be brought into stalls where they could eat from this trough while they were being milked.
Daddy, of course, was a very hardworking man, obviously had to be. And he enjoyed singing, the music, the gospel singings, and that was one of the highlights, was when he'd go to town for a singing group. Well, he'd take the whole family.
So we used to go very often with him to different places where they were having singings, and I'd play for some of the music while we were at the singings, and then I'd play for quartets that he sang in. And for a while they were singing on Sunday mornings over the Coleman radio, so we'd go out to the radio station and do their program.
Daddy was also a very religious man, and he loved to sing. He led the singing at the men's Bible class. If the regular piano player wasn't available, I would be the substitute piano player. And quite often he would ask me to work up a duet with him, and he and I used to sing a lot.
And he was always very good in music, and he could read music. He learned to read shaped notes. And he was always getting a new quartet book, and this was mainly the old Stamps quartet music. Yeah, he would sing tenor. Now, he sang with Lowell's dad. John Dix was a good bass, and they sang in a quartet together.
He loved to sing. And the family grew up loving to sing. I think they all sang together, and they do to this day when they get an opportunity.
So if any of the next generations like to sing, they probably got that from their grandfather on the Watson side.